With that, Paul AC5S is going to do our presentation tonight on DMR. One thing I want to share. One of the important parts about DMR and why it's important to the Parker Radio Association. All of this started between a radio transaction. Believe it or not, I actually bought a radio off of Paul. So, and yeah, I'm not letting off. Shocker.
Help me.
Absolutely, I did what we're saying. But if it wasn't for that transaction, the PRA probably would not have happened. So I bought a DMR radio off of Paul 12 years ago, right? 2014, 13? Well, 2013 is, 2013 is when I bought the radio off of him. And we instantly hit it off and had a few lunches and talked about, where are the clubs in the area. He had just moved from Dubai down here to Parker, and we just kept having lunch after lunch and said, well, maybe we ought to explore this a little further. And we put some feelers out to different people, and before we knew it, we had our first meeting, and here we are now, 200 plus members strong. So if it wasn't for DMR and Paul having a radio for sale, it wouldn't have happened. So this will be a great presentation. I guarantee, and even me, after being in ham radio for 30 plus years, every single one of these sessions I learned something new. So hopefully you got a notepad with you. There'll be some great things to take away. And again, this is part one of the two-part series. So without further ado, Paul, we'll turn it over to you, and the floor is yours. Into Jeff.
What about interest?
So, good evening. We're going to do digital mobile radio tonight in 2 weeks, Bill or night. The first part of the presentation is going to talk a little bit about why DMR is different. Well, history of DMR, why it's different than analog. And then we're going to get into some of the dirt, getting down to the weeds where a lot of people have some issues with DMR. I came from the commercial world, so DMR is really easy for me to program. And one of the reasons that is because I use Motorola radios, and their code plug, their programming software is like super easy compared to some of the Chinese radios. So we'll go through some of that tonight. And then next 2 weeks, please bring your DMR radio. If you want to save this, bring your DMR radio, your computer, and your software. And we'll have a presentation, and we're going to kind of break it groups and work with each of you on some issues that you might be having. So anyway, some credits at the bottom. Mainly it has to do with the slide layout, but some of these people helped with the presentation, and I want to give them credit. Okay, Dan. There we go. Okay, there we go. I had to work this thing out. Okay, if you're involved in any amateur radio digital operations, VHF and UHF, the slide refers to VHF and UHF primarily, not HF. These are the top 5 digital modes that are currently in use in the United States and around the world for digital operation. They're in order of the number of amateur radio operators that are active in those modes. Okay, so you'll see DMR is at the top of the list. We're going to talk a little bit about why that is. But DMR is an open standard. It was not designed by amateur radio operators. It was designed by a consortium of different individuals and organizations and manufacturers in Europe. And it was primarily designed, it still is, sold by companies like Motorola, Nitera, and Kidwood. It is designed for business commercial use, not public service, not public safety, but business commercial use, like schools, churches, fresh truck organizations, that type of thing, hospitals, manufacturing. So that's what DMR was designed to actually do. It is a product that companies still sell today, but the Motorola Amateur Radio Cloud took it one step further. Great, so we'll be back to that in a minute. System Fusion, we had a great presentation on that by John from Yaesu. It was designed by amateurs for amateur use. Okay, so when you see some differences between all these modes, just keep that in mind. 2 weeks ago, we had a great presentation on my favorite mode, which is D-Star, and it was designed by amateurs for amateur use. Again, by the Japanese Amateur Radio League. Okay, P25. P25 was envisioned and the white paper was built and everything by a company by an organization called APCO. And almost every first responder, every public safety organization in the United States runs on P25 systems. At least nowadays. The standard became very popular after 9/11. We're not going to get into the history behind it, but that's what Denver Fire and Denver PD and Aurora and state under DCRS, they all run a P25 visual system. And then last on the list is a consortium between ICOM and Kenwood, now JDC, came together and came up with as we needed something else, right? But they came up with another competing digital mode called NXDN, very popular. Kirk, one of our club members, Peter's son over here, works for Triple C, and they're a Kenwood dealer. They sell a lot of NXDN. So there are some amateurs playing around in that world as well. There are some P25 networks on there, but we're going to be talking about DMR tonight. Okay, what is DMR? Well, it's Commercial Business Radio System. We already said that. It's an open standard. It is spectrally very, very efficient. 12.5 kilohertz bandwidth spacing. We'll talk about that with the slide in a minute. And we can have two conversations on the same frequency at the same time. Okay, that's what makes it like super efficient. DMR supported in the commercial arena by Motorola, Kenwood, but also all the Japanese manufacturers have gotten on board. So you have TYT, you have Bofang, Anytone, and there's probably 10 other people that build DMR radios now, primarily to support, not exclusively, primary to support amateur radio operation. Okay, some of those companies do build some commercial radios as well, like Anytone. But you'll find a lot of people building DMR radios. Now, the chip inside the radio that takes your analog voice and turns it into ones and zeros is called a codec. And not the physical chip, what's on the chip. And so just as comparison to the last presentation, it's one generation newer than D-Star. So technically, it's a little bit better from voice quality, although I'm not 100% sure I can tell. But it certainly has improved bit error correction. It does have better bit error correction than D-Star does, and about the same as Fusion. So anyway, that's kind of about a little bit about DMR there. And amateur radio started using DMR, well, it's been over 10 years now, probably 15 years ago. And the Motorola Amateur Radio Club, these people were the engineers and the salespeople and the admin people that designed the Moto Turbo system, which is a DMR system to sell to the commercial world. And their ham radio club has been around since the 1950s. And actually, Jill and I know is still with us, but he was the president of that club. And he was also the CEO of Motorola Land Mobile. Okay, so they go back a lot of Motorola radios operating on the ham band by design, by the way. In case you didn't know that. It's not just because there are other markets, some of it's by design. So anyway, they took DMR and they said, hey, maybe this will work in the amateur world. And then 10 or 15 years ago, it's taken off. There are over, I think, 200,000 IDs now that are in use with DMR worldwide. Okay, understand this. This kind of goes back in other two presentations as well as this. DMR is not compatible with System Fusion, and it is not compatible with D-Star. It is digital. It is ones and zeros that use packets, all that kind of stuff, but they don't all talk to each other. Surprise? Ain't no surprise? I always say, I'm owned by a family, and Yates is owned by a family, right? So they want to do things their own way, which is fine. I have no issue with how they cool and radios. It's everything. Okay, not going to happen in my lifetime. All right. This is the standard. There are 3 tiers in the standard: tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Nothing space not on this. You go to Europe and you want to see what the comparable radio is to a family radio service radio in the United States. That's kind of what they use tier 1 for in Europe. Okay? We do not use tier 1 in the United States for DMR. The old Bofangs came out and they used tier 1 DMR. It really caters all the current networks. So you have a really old Bofang radio, and you bought it 15 years ago because it said DMR on it. You didn't know what DMR was, but you bought it anyway because it's well knowledge. Please don't use that. Please don't use that on the current DMR networks. Okay, we use conventional tier 2. If anyone asks you, that's what we use. Tier 3 trunk systems are not used anywhere in the United States. I don't know if they're used overseas or not. And that is the ETSI PS 102.361. That is the standard that was built in Europe. It's an old standard. Again, anybody can build radios for that standard. Okay, why DMR for ham radio? Well, one, since about 2003, it's been marketed by Motorola. So that's all I say. Okay, and you know anything about Motorola, okay, they're still selling it. Okay, so it's proven commercial technology. Proven commercial technology. So it's way good enough for amateur radio operators. It's narrow bandwidth, so it's more efficient. Okay. When the FCC narrowbanded all the commercial frequencies, this already met that standard. They were way ahead. Motorola was way ahead of the game at that particular time. It has 2 time slot operation. We're going to go, we have 2 slides on this. Okay. I'm going to present it differently than I did the last 2 times. People came up to me afterwards. They said, I don't really understand that 2 time slot thing. I said, well, we just did a presentation on it. I go, yeah. Anyway, I changed it up a little bit. You know, come up and say to me afterwards, I will not be upset if it's that. But anyway, 2 time slot operation, so it's very, very efficient. Low cost, low entry cost, low entry cost. You can go to Amazon right now. Don't do what you did at lunch last week, because lunch last week there were like 10 people on this side of the table. And by the time lunch was over with, they ordered like 15 radios on Amazon. Am I kidding? Am I kidding? No, I'm not kidding. Okay. So don't go to Amazon right now. But you're gonna get a TYT, you're gonna need to create for around $80 too. With the warranty. Okay. Their TYT 390s are about 120, right? And then everything's pretty reasonable. So very low entry costs. So a lot of games are cheap. I did too. So you know, digital for relatively little money. And on Groups.io, I've seen them for sale for $40. $40. So you probably talk down the stack down the third. Okay. DMR, the way it's set up here with our repeater and most repeaters, you have local access and you have worldwide access. And worldwide means outside of this area. Let's just say that. We're going to say local and worldwide. Local, RM-CAM, Rocky Mountain CAM, has one of the finest DMR networks in the world. There is another competing group in Utah that probably is a couple ladders above RM-CAM, but the bottom line is in the state of Colorado, we have RM-CAM. We have a Denver Radio Club has a DMR repeater. 4 or 5 other clubs have DMR repeaters, and the Parker Radio Association, we have a DMR repeater. It's right there on Swallow with our D-Star repeater, our analog repeater. So we got you covered on that. Worldwide access. All DMR repeaters, not all of them, but a lot of them are Motorola hand-me-downs are used or new. Okay, they come from the factory native network you built in. Okay, there's no wheel. It has to be reintroduced or we figured out anything. We just plug in a network cable and we are on somebody's network. And that's how we connect to other hams worldwide, or in Texas, or in wherever it may be, Western Colorado. So we got native networking on DMR repeaters, and that makes it capable of going all over the world. And some people work their DXCC on DMR. That's, I don't see anything wrong with that. But the point is, you can talk all over the world with DMR, and it's easy. It's easy. Trust me. I've set up several of them. And when you talk about DMR, how many of you still work? I'm surprised. Not they used to work. So, except for Ray, I looked at Ray and when I started saying this, I do it right. But most people, when they went to work, okay, Ray was at 30,000 feet, okay? Maybe he had a network, I don't know. But everybody that went to work, you were on a local area network, right? And each person was identified somewhat by a number or name or whatever. So there are different networks associated with DMR worldwide. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this. I will tell you we're on the Brandmeister network. All right. But what happened is that the very first network, who set up the very first DMR network? Motorola. That's exactly right. Now, if you go to the dictionary tonight, you look at Motorola, okay? Right next to their name, it says R1 on the highway. Okay? Does anybody work with Motorola? Okay. So it didn't take very long for amateurs to say, bullshit. We are. Get that now. Amateurs wanted to experiment. Stop that. Amateurs wanted to experiment. Amateurs wanted to do things with DMR that had never been done. But they had a bunch of rules on the DMR market network. Like they had lots of rules, like 3 pages, and they still do. Okay, so everybody said we can do it better. So the guys in Germany built the Brandmeister network, right? It's a separate network from DMR Mark. But then Brandmeister has a bunch of rules too, and a bunch of guys didn't like them. Well, IT guys. IT guys. Okay, so like, why did they do it that way? We can do it better. So then, thank God it's Friday. They built a DMR network, and then we got a couple other networks that popped up. Probably just because some people got to get the ring on lunch and said we could do that. Okay, but we're on the Brandmeister network. I know to Rocky Mountain Inn is not on any network. They're on their own network. They're not connected. It's a closed network. I don't generally do that. We can use it, but we don't. We can't connect to pockets all over the world right now. Okay, so that's why DMR. Remember some of these kind of here is a good example. I use this slide a lot. It's something about it that maybe I don't know. But basically on the left, the blue is an analog signal, 25 kilohertz wide. And then as everybody complains, it took us 5 years, Scott, to get a analog VHF per meter repair 5 years, because they're all used up. On the right is it's a typical digital signal. DMR is 12.5 kilohertz. For the most part, so we'll check me on this, but for the most part, Fusion is 12.5 kilohertz wide. D-Star is the most efficient digital system available. It's 6.25 kilohertz wide. Okay, so every repeater in the United States wants a D-Star or DMR. We'd have a whole lot more frequencies. We could double up the number of repeaters we have on front banks and our usage. That's a joke. That's actually on my laptop. Okay, now DMR actually is better than 12.5 kilohertz because it's 2 time slot operation. On a single repeater pair or a single frequency, we can have 2 conversations going on simultaneously. So that really makes it probably the most efficient digital mode out there. But D-Star is right there. It's all good there. Okay, let's talk about time slots. In analog, one conversation on one repeater frequency pair or one simplex chat, right? Two people talk, what happens? What's it called? Double. Two people are talking at the same time on our VHF repeater. It's a double. You might be able to hear what they've said, you might not. One person might be stronger than the other, but it's designed for one conversation at a time. That's it. All right. DMR is not. You can have two completely separate conversations on one repeater. So when Scott designs and puts a repeater out in the field, like we did in Elizabeth, that's a VHF repeater. And it's a single channel. Two people can talk at a time, that's it. Okay? By going back and forth. That's your books. On DMR, the conversations can be going on, two separate conversations. Let's just say 4 people at the same time, but 2 people on this side of the room don't hear 2 people on this side of the room. So we do that by what's called time slots. Right now, DMR uses TDMA, time domain multiplex
How's the digital
access, right? The very first cell phones use TDMA. All of the new P25 public safety systems use TDMA because it's more spectrally efficient. Okay, so 2 conversations on one repeater at the same time. They don't interfere with each other. We call that separation time slot 1 and time slot 2. Okay, it is a function of how you program your radio and how the repeater is programmed. All right, does that all make sense? All right, now when you program your radio, we're going to go through this in a minute. You will have to tell the radio, I want to transmit on time slot 1 or time slot 2, or it doesn't work. And when we program the repeater, we have to tell the repeater how to handle that incoming traffic. We'll go over that here in just a minute. Okay, there's a worldwide standard for time slots on repeaters. Time slot 1 is a dynamic time slot. If you program your radio with time slot 1, then you can connect to the PRA repeater. Okay, other programming that we'll go over later, and it is dynamic. You can connect to one of over 2,000 Grandmeister talk groups. We'll talk about talk groups in a minute, so just bear with me there. If you are on time slot 1, which is our dynamic time slot on the repeater, you can connect to our repeater on time slot 1 with the correct programming, and you can connect to any of the 2,000 plus talk groups anywhere in the world. Okay? If you try to connect to those on time slot 2, it does not work. We have that locked down with software. I'll talk about that in a minute. So time slot 1 is dynamic. It is used for linking DMR repeaters to other IDs, our DMR repeater, other IDs on a network. Which network are we on? It's Grandmeister. That is correct. Okay? These IDs, and they're called talk groups, these IDs are numeric and are referred to as talk groups. And we have an 8300 model Motorola repeater, and we're connected to Grandmeister on time slot 1. Okay, this is our dynamic time slot. Time slot 2. Worldwide, time slot 2 is set up as a local time slot. Okay, there are 2 ways we can do that. We're not going to get into the second way tonight, but for all practical purposes, you need to know that time slot 2 is locked down to talk group 310844. To get on time slot 2, you have to have your radio program correct. Part of that programming is telling the radio to transmit on time slot 2. And then the repeater will always connect you to 310844. It will not change. It does not change. Okay, so we call that our local talk group. Now, one step further, if you look on the Grandmeister list of talk groups. If you look under 310-844, it's listed as our radio association. Okay? So if you want to talk local to other club members, you program your radio, which we'll go through later. You make sure that that channel is on time slot 2, and you make sure it's programmed for 310-844. So let's get come together a little bit as we get further into this. Time slot 1 is dynamic. Time slot 2 is static. Always on 310-844. What happens if you program your radio to connect to Jeeps and Geeks? That is Jeeps and Geeks is a talk group. We're going to go over talk groups in just a minute. Let's say you program your radio to talk on the Jeeps and Geeks talk group. I don't know what number it's. Okay. And you accidentally transmit with your road radio program on time slot 2. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Okay? So programming is very, very important. Matter of fact, it's everything on DMR. There's a big quirk to DMR because it's designed for commercial use, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay? So the hint is we've already covered it with programming the DMR radio channel, and you must define the channel you're programming to use either time slot 1 or time slot 2. Am I?
Quick question.
Yes.
Can you switch between those then? So if you program time slot 1, you could dial up 310-844, right? Out of time slot 1.
You are ahead of me, but you are correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So why would I ever program time slot 2 then?
Well, 1, because we don't want both of them dynamic.
Okay.
2, because the standard worldwide is that is a local time slot. 3 is because we don't do it like some other clubs do. Because if we didn't want to be connected to Brandmeister, we would just talk with 9. Because we are connected to Brandmeister on time slot 2 to 310-844, we can take inbound traffic.
Okay.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to connect to us, so you can go to time slot 1, and you can connect a repeater to 310-844. That is correct. And then when it's connected, somebody could connect us on 310-844, but they always can on time slot 2. And they only can on time slot 1 when somebody connects to the time slot.
So is there a switch on the radio? So if I want to talk to Jeeps and Geeks, right?
Yeah.
And then I want to switch over and talk local. Do I have to reprogram the radio every time?
Yes and no. We'll get there.
Okay.
Yes and no. But the answer, only answer, yes. Yes.
Okay.
The way we're going to discuss it tonight, that would be 2 channels. Okay. 1 channel will be programmed for our local discussion or top group, and 1 will be programmed for whatever you want to go to on time slot 1.
Okay.
So by having 310-844 on time slot 2, people can connect to us easier than other ways. And we'll get into some of that next week. Okay. 1 and 2, we clear on all that. I do. Okay. We're going to talk about talk groups now. We're connected to a network. It's called Brandmeister. It's really like any other network that you ever have been connected to at Oracle or any place else for probably 30,000 feet. You get back to that this year.
Yes.
You should get it. All right. Each point on a given network, we're on Brandmeister. Each point on that network has a network ID. And that ID is called a talk group in DMR world. Okay? So talk group 91, talk group 93, talk group 313, 316. There's over 2,000 talk groups. Right? When you program your radio, we already talked about the episode of time slot that, right? You have to be on time slot 1 to connect to another talk group. Okay? But understand that a talk group is a virtual channel. A virtual channel that lets multiple radios talk to each other on the same network. That's all it is. Okay? And Brandmeister managed by a group of people. They have 50 plus servers worldwide. And they're the largest network. But Other organizations use different networks, like Thank God It's Friday, okay, or DMR. We choose Brandmeister because of the flexibility, and because they make it easy for Motorola repeaters to connect to their network. It's a one-page, well, it's a half a page white paper, done deal. I mean, we just plug it in, point the repeater programming to their server. That's it. There's nothing else to it. Very, very simple. Even I can do that. Now, they have 50 servers worldwide, keeping all these talk groups available to everybody. And when we want a talk group, we want to set up a talk group. Initially, we get old Brandmeister, and we say we would like to have 31084. They say, nope, it's taken. Target ready. Well, we'd like to have 92, 93, whatever. They're going to assign you, start out with 2-digit talk group numbers, and they want 4-digit, and 3-digit, and 4-digit. We are 6-digit, now 8-digit, I think. So you'll get whatever number they assign you. It's assigned by the network you're on, which in our case is Brandmeister. Okay, talk groups are not, it's not a frequency. It's not a repeater. Okay, it's a virtual point out on the Brandmeister network that anybody can connect to. Now that doesn't mean you can't assign a talk group to a repeater. That's what we did with our repeater on time step 2. We've assigned our talk group to time slot 2 on our repeater. But it's still a virtual point on the network. It's not physical in any way, shape, or form. Now I said there's about 1,800 talk groups. That's what they list. iStar UK is the best list of talk groups anywhere in the world. You will not find us on it. We chose not to publicize our talk group way back when. And Aries, most of the Aries talk groups nationwide are not publicized. Okay? Doesn't mean you can't access those talk groups. It just means it's a little harder to find them. And we all got on the Aries deck talk group one night. Oh, they didn't very well. But so we did it again next time. But I love Aries. I'm not trying to get Aries in my time. We just they were surprised somebody knew what they're talking about. We were just having fun. Okay. Now listen. Three important notes here. Very important notes. Talk groups can be, in my mind, defined in 3 ways. The first way is by topic. So an example here is Jeeps and Geeks. There is a talk group called Jeeps and Geeks. So probably ham radio operators know Jeeps. Okay. RV and hams. Astronomy. Okay. There are 25 or 30% of all the talk groups are topic related. So if you go there and you're interested in RV and hams, you're probably going to find like-minded people. Maybe not. You just want to have a conversation. You can do that too. But the bottom line is that there are a lot of talk groups that are built around topics. Then there are talk groups that are geographical. Okay? So I have a good friend who lives in Tulsa. He's in Oklahoma. They have a Northeastern Oklahoma talk group, a Central talk group, a Western Oklahoma talk group, and a Southern Oklahoma talk group. Okay? So we have a Colorado talk group, 3108, I believe. Right? Utah's got a whole bunch of them. So, but it could be Moscow, Russia. They have like 45 talkers. It could be, so a geographical point on the earth, that could be how the talk group is defined. You kind of know what you're getting there, right? Listen. And then lastly, you can incorporate both the first two. So Colorado, severe weather. So obviously we're talking about Colorado, but it's kind of focused around severe weather, just topic really. There's other talk groups like that. But every talk group, for the most part, falls in one of those three categories. So go to iStar Connect, go to the DMR list, and just take about 5 minutes. It'll take that long to go through this whole long list. You'll see every country in the world represented, some of them with 25, 30 different talk groups. You'll see individual cities in those countries. You'll see all kind of bizarre stuff. Ray, one of our former flood members, still up there right back. He's in New Zealand now. He led the talk group, Anarchy at DMR. Or maybe it's DMR Anarchy. I don't know, but whichever is there, you can look it up tonight. You can connect it. Okay. Now, when we're talking about talk groups, we're talking about Microsoft One. That's our dynamic talk group. What we're saying is you can use your DMR radio to connect to our DMR repeater with the correct programming on time slot 1. And you can connect our repeater to any of those 2,000 plus talk groups. When you do that, guys, you can have a conversation. And there are a couple things we'll go through in just a minute on that, how that works, why it doesn't work sometimes. But remember, this came from the commercial world, the digital world. I can't imagine. I will just pick Dan's company for just a minute. He's got locations in 4 or 5 places around the United States. And if he had a manufacturing talk group, admin talk group, a delivery truck talk group for each of his facilities, and who knows what else, he still would not have more than 10 talk groups ever in the history of his company or in the future of this company. So now we're dealing with the system that's designed really to handle a very small amount of talk groups in the business world. And we have 2,000 plus talk groups, and that opens up a can of worms. So we'll go to that in a minute. Any questions about talk groups? Yes.
Do they set up Brandmeister so you can get poured out to DMR part?
We'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about that next week. It is a good question, and the answer is yes. In their back server rooms, they can connect Brandmeister talk groups to other networks, including YSF, B25, NXDN, D-Star, All-Star. So they can do that if they want to. And if you're familiar with, and I'll answer now, I think it's wrong down. If you're familiar with KCY, no.
Yes.
So why is separate?
And everything else.
Okay. So if you go to their page and you look at the top, it says this is how you connect to us. It's like a paragraph long. You can connect to them through B25 network, NXDN, I think starting this week, or any other digital systems that we had on an earlier slide. But they do that connection in their back server room. So when you want to connect to HCY, YSF, Yaesu network, on Brandmeister, it's 313136. Okay? So somebody that was connecting our DMR here the last 2 weeks to HCY, somebody has done.
So all those 2,000 are all in time slot 1. Like they're all dynamic.
Well, they're not. They by themselves are not dynamic. They're just sitting down.
So if I'm going to connect to Cheeks and Geeks, I'm going to go time slot 1 to our 310-844, connect 310-844 to
No. What you're going to do is, I'll get to this a little bit, but here's what we're going to, let's answer the question. That sounds good. You're going to program your radio with the right frequency, okay? You're going to program it for time slot 1. That's our dynamic talk group, all right? And give me a number. What are you connecting to? Pick a number.
52.
You're going to then program your radio for talk group 52. Okay? And one other thing we'll talk about in a minute, and you're going to key your mic. That's it. The repeater is going to take your request, You take your request and it's going to get on the network and connect you to 52. There's nothing to do with 310-844. 310-844 is just another talk.
Okay.
And that's nothing special. We just happen to have them either locked down on that on time slot 2.
So if for somebody Geeks and Geeks is local, could that be their time slot too?
It could be. You can put anything in there you want here when the admin sets it up. But that's typically not what they would do.
Okay.
Typically.
You don't need the hotspot to do that.
No, we're not gonna get an hotspot tonight. Yeah. Yeah, this is just for Peters. We could do 2 or 3 presentations on hotspots. But okay, so that's what a talk group is. Now, programming talk groups in the real world. Okay, so some of this we just covered, Andrew, but every single programming software package, whether it be for Motorola, Anytone, where's ADR? You, Sean? Yeah. No, I got from you. DYT. Have you down? It's not you too. Yeah, we're gonna go big once. Okay, whatever software you use to program your radio, and you have to, by the way, please just trust me on that. Whatever software you use, we need to build a list of talk groups in your radio before we do anything. But not every software calls that list a talk group list. Some of them call that a digital contact list. Some people call it TG. Well, you're looking for the word talk group, or you're looking for the word digital contact, and it says TG. Maybe that doesn't connect, right? But whatever you call it, and we'll go through a lot of this next week, this is not channel programming, what I'm getting ready to talk about. Okay? It's not channel programming. You have to go to your radio software, you have to build a list of talk groups that you might want to connect to. Right? Now, for some people, that's going to be 5. For some people, it's going to be 500. For some people, it's going to be 10. Okay? But to start out and learn how to program, I suggest don't do any more than 10. So go through, go to mystar.uk, look through the list, and when you get to 248, you're going to say, I want sodium. You're going to put it in there. But it doesn't matter what you're going to do. But this is a list, just like your wife or husband or other significant other, whoever, gives you a list of things to do, right? Well, they're gone. This is just a list. That's all we're doing is populating this list. It's just a list of talk groups. Okay? And what do you put in your list? Well, what are your interests? What do you want to do? Who do you want to talk to? Are you have family in Southeast US and there's a hurricane talk group. Okay? That comes up on the air. It's there all the time, but it comes up on the air during hurricane season. You decide what goes in your talk groups. You can add to it. You can take talk group numbers out. You can add to it later on. It doesn't matter. But start out, build your list.
Yeah.
Okay. So in mine, my list, Colorado severe weather, 310-844, northeastern Oklahoma, Pampa system in California. Let's see. There's a group in Oregon I like to check. They have a great net. And 3 or 4 more. That's all I have in mind. That's all I'm really interested in. Okay? Estonia is not in there. But it's in there. Yeah. Okay, so you're going to build that list. If you like hearing people talk internationally, if you want to talk internationally, then you're going to put 91, 93, North America. 310-844 is Parker Local, Estonia. There's a story there, right? You know there's a story, but okay, Colorado, state of Colorado, statewide, 3108. Tennessee areas. Now that's the group. 31476. DMR anarchy. There you go, right? It's like 31 things. And Kings of Digital. Maybe that was, I don't know. Kings of Digital 31620. and the KCY 313-136. I know somebody's been connecting that every week.
Doug Works not here, K0ATP, I bet he did it.
And like, yeah, let's say you did. Okay, now, so you got that list programmed in your radio, right? And it's just sitting there. And it's titled something like Digital Contact List, Group List, PG. It's titled different things, but that's in there. Done. All right, let's leave it alone. Now, just for the fun of it, we're going to also program to see all group lists. Right? Now, you may not need it, but we're going to do it anyway. Remember, to Andrew's point, great point. The initial talk group list we just talked about programming is for transmitting the talk group request. Okay? So 91, 93, Sonia, that list we just populated, that is to tell the repeater to connect. It is a transmit function. That list is a transmit function. Okay, but right now, just stick with it. If we want to hear different talk groups over and above the one we're going to program to the channel in a minute, we need to populate that list as well. Okay, and the reason that is because how many remember and have used party lines? Right, you're going to like this. So let's say everybody on this side of the street is on party line server number 1. Everybody on this side of the street is on party line server 2. So you're suspicious of your neighbor across the street. You look at your breakfast, your kitchen window, and you see your neighbor sitting by the window and he's on the phone. What do?
Up your window.
You pick up your phone and listen to the conversation. That's exactly right. But in this case, you pick up the phone and you don't hear him. Because he's on a different server. He's on a different party line server. Okay? And they're not connected anymore. So, this is how talk groups work. I don't program my radio to be able to listen to the talk group that's on the air. I will get a green light that flashes on my radio. And it will say, if somebody uses the repeater, I bet they're having a great conversation. You're not even hearing them. Now, there's some ways around that if you want there to be. Okay? So understand, like our description earlier on what a talk group is, it allows hands to get on the same party line and communicate with each other. But just like a party line, if the repeater's connected to Sonia 248, if you aren't able to listen to 248, then you're not going to hear that conversation or talk on that talk group. So that's why we populate a receive talk group. Okay? Just bear with me for a minute. So, in the commercial world, that's what I have to do. So I take all 10 digital contacts I have, the first list we talked about, I put them all in my receives. Okay? And then I'm going to port those over to the channel I program. But we'll get to that in a minute. Now, this system was designed for business use. Chinese got a hold of it, came out with any tones and those names and all that. They designed something called promiscuous. Okay? So it's available on all the current Chinese DMR radios. It is not available on most. It's not available on Kidwood commercial. But if you have a Chinese radio, it's available. When it comes to the factory, the promiscuous mode is not turned on. Okay? If you turn it on, you have 3 options. You can listen to everybody that's on time slot 1, regardless of how your radio is programmed for transmit, regardless of how their radio is programmed. If they're on our time slot 1 and they're talking to somebody, you can hear everybody on time slot 1 in promiscuous mode 1. Promiscuous mode 2, you can hear everybody on either time slot. Okay? And then the third mode is off. Turn it off like a junction factor. This will make more sense than that. But if Scott and I are talking to each other on time slot 1 on Estonia, U48, we just want to connect to their talk group. If your radio doesn't have Estonia, you receive list, you will not hear us. You'll just see your light flash. Okay? Does everybody understand that?
Even in promiscuous stuff.
No, not in permission.
That's
Yeah, if it's off, that's the situation. So some people want to leave promiscuous mode off. Why? I listened on a time slot for a buddy of mine somewhere contact. I connect to our repeater, or I just want to hear traffic on his local route, or his local repeater or whatever. I don't want to hear everybody else. So I would just leave it off and only listen to the time slot, the coverage side programming on my machine. Keep better. Okay. So, also remember that anything in your receive list has to be applied to the channel you program. Read up this in just a minute. If not, just having the list doesn't help us. Just like having the list of your digital contacts doesn't do you any good. It's just a list. You have to apply it to a channel you program. Okay? So just one more quick thing I'll permit you to start. In order for Scott and I to be able to talk on time slot 1 and he's out of town, we both have to be on a DMR channel that's set up with the correct color code. Get to that. We have to be on time slot 1 on our computer or 2. And we have to be on the same file group. Okay? What the promiscuous mode does is that it works around that and gives you some options to be able to hear everybody on the time slot instead of just the one talk group that you might have programmed in that channel. Right? That's all it is. And it's not on Motorola's, it's not on Windows, it is on all the Chinese radios. But it doesn't come from the factory turned on. It's sometimes really hard to find because they don't always follow permissions. It's a problem. It's like a lot of other things on Anytone does, I think, but TYT does not. Wushan does not. You have to find it. So we'll talk about this for next week. Okay. How do you program an analog channel on your radio? Analog channel. You program the frequency, the offset, and the CTCSS tone. That is ear access, right? The receiver doesn't hear the correct tone. It does not turn on the transmitter. Okay? That's all there is to programming an analog radio. Would everybody agree?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
That's
Program a digital channel. Okay? Before we start, somebody did flags get on this. You have to apply for a digital ID. I'm going to cover that later on in the presentation. So understand, for this example, you've already programmed your digital ID into the radio. One and done. So we're going to assume right now the radio we're programming already has a digital ID program in the radio. So to program a DMR channel, you put in a frequency on the repeater. No different than analog, right? Same thing. Different frequency, same thing. He put in the offset. Now, in a Yaesu Kenwood icon world, you just do a plus 600 minus 600. You can't plus or minus. It already knows it's 600 kilohertz. When you go to UHF on a Yaesu, it already knows it's plus or minus 5 megahertz. Most of your commercial radios are not set up that way, nor is the cones, CPS software, or some of the other Chinese radios. You have to put in the actual frequencies. The input frequency to the repeater is what your radio transmits on. and the output of the repeater expansion radio receivable. So you put in the frequencies. Then you put in the offset. No difference than an analog repeater. Basic first two, everybody be there. Now, for the one that gets everybody, you have to put in a color code. So let's go back in history to that standard, that European standard was put together. They had this really cool idea. Well, instead of a number, commercial people aren't that smart. So let's give them colors. So when they're programming commercial radio, let's tell them that they need to program color code orange, or color code red, or color code green. Okay? So that's still in place today, except nobody uses the colors anymore. The colors, there were 15 colors. I was 16. And they quit using colors 25 years ago, 20 years ago. But every color is assigned a number.
Yeah.
So today we only use numbers. However, the area in which you input this number is called a color code. Does that make sense? And a lot of the programming software doesn't just say color code, it says CC. Now you go into any film programming, okay, it should be about half a page with 25 checkboxes. It's got what, 200 checkboxes, and you're trying to find color code. And it's not there. And then when you get to color code, you find CC. You click the box and where are the numbers? Where are the colors? It's asking me for a number. Okay? So every repeater owner, admin person will publish all this information on their D-Star repeater. And one of the things they publish is color code. The color code for the PRA repeater is 1. Okay? Color code 1. It's an access to the repeater. It's a digital code. You want to know what it is. It's a digital code. And the receiver has to hear that digital code or it will not turn on the transmitter. So for our DMR repeater, the color code is 1, but it's not a color. Okay? Right, Tom? Okay. So we put that in. So the color code would correspond to what? On the analog roll. CEC, correct, or PL. Private line, which is a Motorola chip. Okay, so we got those three in. Exactly the same as analog. Now we just need to put 2 more things. Okay? Are we going to talk to our family in Dallas, Texas? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So do we go Andrew time slot 1 or time slot 2? Time slot 1 is correct. Andrew wants to talk to Bill, DX. They want to have a long discussion. They don't want to attack the network. So it's a local call, so you program that time slot as 2. Okay, and then the last thing you program, now we're programming a channel now. 1 channel is ready. 1 channel is ready. Okay, so we put in the frequencies, the offset, color code, which is not code, the time slot, we want to connect, and to the repeater and toggle. That's it, folks. Type. Okay, but in all seriousness, you put those 5 things in, you will get on here. Except it says so. That's all there is to it. You just need to know where you want to go, where you want to go, what you want to do. If you want to connect to one of the 2,000 plus talk groups, you've got to be on time slot 1. And you have to tell the repeater where to go. It doesn't know. And if you leave that little piece out, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. And if you connect to 313136 ACY, and you program your radio plus 5 slot 2, it doesn't go anywhere. Okay? Right, what?
You'll hear it always.
Yeah. Right. And that is a worldwide standard for all DMR repeaters. Right.
And the repeater only handle 1 connection. So if you and the doc are talking, right, on a Symbian, I wanted to talk to Randy on Germany, whatever. You guys are on a repeater. I can't talk to Randy at the same time.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's one conversation at a time per time slot. Okay, now here's how you pick someone you don't like at the club.
That's just a joke.
Okay, so that's a great example. Okay, so Randy's talking to one of his buddies. He's got a lot of friends up in Fort Worth. So let's say he's talking to one of his buddies up in Fort Worth. Guys. And between the two comebacks, you key the repeater on time slot 1 because you want to go to Geeks and Geeks. It'll shut him off, and now the repeater's connected to Geeks and Geeks. Okay. That's one at a time. Now, if Scott and I are talking to each other on time slot 2, and you're having a conversation with somebody on time slot 1, that's fine. We can have those conversations all day long. All right? That's how you program it. Super easy, very simple. And that just shows what we did on the analog repeater programming. And that shows what we did on the DMR repeater. And lastly, I want to point out, when you're programming a talk group, you're going to connect repeaters to a talk group. That comes out of your digital contacts. That's the first list that we put into the radio. Okay? That's your transmit talk group list. Okay? And depending upon the radio, depending upon how it's set up, you may also have to pick a talk group from the receive list as well and populate the channel with that. All right? Not going to get any deeper than that tonight.
Good.
But the receive talk group lists are truly a list. They are titled, they're a list. You can title whatever you want. So you can title them into SRK receive list. Okay? And when you're programming a channel, everything we just said here, but you want to program all 10 of your receive talk groups so that that channel can hear anybody on those talk groups, you have an option to do that in the program. You have an option to just tell the radio to listen long bus. But it's if your promiscuous mode is turned off or it's on. But either way, you're going to apply that list that you create. And those are the people that you're not necessarily, you don't have to, well, you have to connect to them. So they're not going to mimic your digital contacts for the most part. People using just one talk group goes to the digital contact for transmit, and one goes into the receive list for receive. Okay, now some radios like the Motorola's, when you put in a digital contact for transmit, it's just one, it automatically picks it up. I don't have to program another. I don't have to program anything in the receive list. But that's just for one channel, one time.
Are using software or RT systems for this to build your list, and then you just use
Correct.
cable?
Yep.
Or are you sitting there
Yep.
slim figuring?
But maybe not RT systems. So that's going to be for next week. Maybe not RT systems. Certainly not for commercial radios, and for not for most of the digital radios that are out there. Some, like the 878s, you can get that for RT systems. Yes.
Okay, so let's say you're on, you almost have to have a rule if in order to see time slot 2, somebody's calling versus you've got to stop the time slot 1.
No. When Scott and I are talking on time slot 2 on 310844, we don't hear anything from time slot 1.
That's what I said. In other words, while your conversation is going on, Andy must call me on time slot. You're on time slot 1. Andy must call me on time slot 2. I'm not going to hear it unless I got a book.
No, you're not going to hear it unless you're not going to hear it. You have the permission to start or not.
Not that bad. Let's see local. But what the
There's no, you're not going to hear it.
You're not going to have dual. They have you have dual sensors. Or you both of them are, let's say you could chop up the same frequency, one's on time slot one, one's on time slot two. Then you would hear.
I don't know, they do dual band DMR radios, but I guess,
I don't know. Yeah, this is it's not a dual receive.
it's not, I don't think it's dual DMR.
Uh,
I don't think it is. I think there is a low tech that is.
Any toll will receive one too, but only transmitter.
Okay.
And that's why I haven't turned it on for a while. It's kind of useless.
Yeah.
But it will do it. You can receive one too, and you just have to turn it on.
So you need to have two radios. They one about that. So you want a time slot one and one two. Say basically the same higher or same frequency.
If you have promiscuous mode turned on, you can listen to time slot 1 and time slot 2 simultaneously.
Are you talking Motorola?
No, yeah, Motorola. No.
You have that two rate Motorola is set up a scan group, which probably for next week. Okay. Hit the scan function and it's just trying to scan through when you that filter rate in that scan group. So you could have same frequency time slot 1 and time slot 2, two separate panels. But if they're the same scan group and you hit scan, whatever one transmits, you're going to get. So it'd be going back for, yeah. Yeah. We especially, no, this is a standard UHF repeater or VHF repeater. It's just operating in digital mode, as opposed to, and all.
What I tell my wife, I'm going to receive all the kind of.
That's yeah. Okay, so on a, and we'll get into this more next week, but on a any tone, this is the digital contact list or the talk group list, and it goes on and on and on. And it's identified here as the contact / talk group list. Brings the list, first thing you're going to run it. And you'll see up here, I just put in one talk group. 30844. We do not use call alert on the 8 tones, to my knowledge. You can title that talk group anything you want. Doesn't matter. Now, it might make more sense to call it what it is, but you can name it whatever you want to name it. That doesn't matter. When you apply this to the channel you're programming, you're typically going to do it by the name of the talk group. So some people will put in PRA local and they'll put the number in the title. That might help them remember what that is. And then on the right, we're not going to get into this tonight, but 99% of everything you program will always be a group call. If you do the drop-down box, get a private call, it's not going to work. So everything we do is a group call, with the exception of some fancy stuff you can do, and some of the echo systems that are out there are private calls. 9990 is a private call. Operate 999. 9990 is a talk group, but it is a
That's the parrot,
parrot. You put 9990 and there's a talk group, program a channel for it, and you make it a private call. And when you see into that mic, it will repeat the voice message back to you. Okay. So this next week we're going to talk about this. So I hope everybody will look at the list. iStar UK. And those of you that are interested in DMR, come in here with 10 talk groups that you might want to you populate this list. Okay. I'm interested to see what your interests are.
You can have, that can be, you can arrange it by type, right? So if I'm going to use PRA books and then I use worldwide, it could be time slot 1 on number 1 is going to be channel 1 on radio, right? Number 2 is going to be channel 2.
This has nothing to do with channels.
Okay.
All this is a list. It's just a list. So you can have them in any order you want. You just can't put one in the first line. But other than that, you can have, it's just a list, not we're not programming channels here. We're just putting information in a list that we're going to use programming channel. That's next here.
Oh.
Okay. But that's why it's confusing. This is not channel programming. It is just talk group programming. Which talk groups are you interested in? And so come next week with 10 talk groups from that list that you might be receiving. We'll probably with 5 in, but with just that way you look at the whole list. You're going to see what a wide variety of topics it is. Man,
Like one, so important.
I don't know that. I know on some of the software packages, you cannot use line 1, and that may be more limited to Motorola. I don't know the answer to that. Does anybody know? Yes, go ahead.
On Chinese radios, you find one for people.
Okay, there we go. So we can put it in line 1. All right. And again, this is just a list that you're going to use on the next slide to program a channel. And next week, that's what we're going to do. We're going to program a couple of channels with your radio and your software. Okay?
Think it's memories. Think of your memories. So you're great. You know, where you find has
Oh, the talk groups here? iStar.uk. iStar.
Or just Google DMR talk.
Yeah, just Google DMR talk groups. Don't go to Brandmeister.
No,
Brandmeister has a list that's not inclusive of everything. Okay, and you don't see us on there again. That was designed a long time ago. I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing. We don't have we're not on there, and you won't see a lot of areas because they don't want to be on published list either, which is fine. And there's other first responder or groups that assist first responder and stuff like that. They have their own dog groups. They don't want to be publicized either. It's not that we can, as amateurs, get on their dog group. They're not closed, but they just really they rather be available for their intended usefulness. Okay. So you get a DMR radio. First thing you do is you're going to get a DMR ID. Now, when it takes about 24 hours, I'll show you where to go to get it. When you get it, the first thing you do is put that ID in your radio. Okay. And then the second thing you do is populate this list. And then there's a receive talk group list. And whatever you put in here, put in the receive list. Okay. Those are the two things we're going to do part of next week. Okay. Now, all righty. So now I lied a little bit. Yeah. So now we're programming Andrew a channel. One channel on your radio. I know some of you are going to say, well, there's other ways to do this, that. This training, we're going to just program some chats. And this is Anytone. I think it's version 3.07. So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to program channel 1. But you can title channel 1 whatever you want. Okay? Doesn't matter. So that's what we're going to do. And then right below it, we're going to program the frequency, receive frequency, and we'll transmit frequency. Okay? And that's on the air tab at parkradio.org. As is the code code, as is the information on time slots and stuff. What's not on our site is what talk group you're going to put in your radio. Okay, so we put the frequency in. Now, I didn't talk about this, but nearly every single radio you buy is can do analog and digital. Okay. The screen is the same here for programming. But all we're really talking about tonight, next week, next 2 weeks, 2 weeks from now, is digital programming. So it comes from the factory, this one, but you can change that to analog if you want to. You can also change the transmit power. Okay. If it's set on digital, it will automatically go to 12.5 kilohertz spacing, and you cannot change that. If you put in an analog frequency, it gives you some options. Okay, so you can play with that. So we put that in, and under transmit permit, okay, it's an old Motorola thing. I'm not going to go into it, but always, trust me, always on this radio, Motorola's these. Okay, so we come down here, and there's a whole section on analog. We're programming the digital channel, so we don't care about any of this. But some of that stuff is familiar to you, right? Okay? I don't know what that is, because I don't have any zones, so we're gonna save it. And then up here, there's some other stuff, we're not gonna get into that, but here's where you put your talk group at. And there, right there. Now, when you click on that link, that box right there, you're gonna have a drop-down list of every single contact or talk group that you program. You can pick whichever one you want. Now, this is for transnet. Okay? So if you want to connect our repeater to Estonia, which is talk group 248, and you populated your digital contact list with Estonia, and you called it Estonia, and you click on the contact tab there, you'll have a drop down and Estonia will be there. You click on it. That's all there is to it. I do suggest that you not enter your talk groups by number. You have to tell, when you put in a talk group, you have to put a number in. That's a talk group number. That's the phone number. Okay? But then when you put the title of the talk group in, I wouldn't use the number. I would call it whatever it is. Okay? And then it's easier for you to see what your connection address is during the connect. Now, if this is Motorola, we'd be done, but it's not. And so there's some things there that are kind of interesting. We do have color code, like I told you, right? But we also have two color codes. I have no idea what received color codes is. So we just won't get into correct slash. I'll read up on it next week. But anyway, the color code for transmit is what we need. That's what the receiver hears, digital code, it turns on the transmitter, and our color code for our DMR issue model. Or do one. Is it orange? No. Is it pink? No. It's a pink. Buddies. Pink kitties? Okay, buddy. So color code's one, and then now it's not time slot. I'm going to tell it this slot. So we're going to connect to Estonia, and we're Estonia. And I think you might have been there once. Different exciting. You're about we were second test. That's what the looking at around you. So it's all. What if you want to connect to our local talk group? What would that be? B2. That's 5B2. And then we would pick we contact and pick all local PRA local. Everyone's doing 4-4. Okay.
So we now have to do the offset, or you could do the offset. But there you go. Both the transmit, so C5.
Yeah, so if you put the track, both of them are 440, that's going to be a simplex. So you have to put the input frequency, the transmit frequency, the radio, and the output.
Okay.
And so you have, on this software, you have to do that. I don't see a box that says, yeah, I don't see it. On Yaesu Kid with an icon, there's always going to be a plus or minus that shows up on the screen. I don't know how it shows up on the screen. Okay, encryption, we don't do encryption, and there's some other stuff there. There's also the ability for the 8 hours to use APRS and things like that. But anyway, that programming right there will get you on the air. That's all you have to do. Is there anything I missed on that?
If you leave transmit permit at always, you are being driven.
Well, okay, I will buy that because you can actually connect over somebody. Okay.
Right way, it should be on different color code.
So it should be on the color code free.
Free if that's all you have, or different color code is recommended one.
Okay. All right. Like I understand color code free, but I don't understand different color codes.
Well, you program for color code 1. When color code 1 goes away, that releases new text.
Okay. And color code free does the same thing.
Best.
So commercial radios is going to be color code free and different color code. Right?
Yes, it's not wrong. Let's say it takes you has to set
No,
on also. If you
no icon radios, Vasey radios, or Kenwood radios. It has to be a Motorola commercial, a Kenwood commercial, a Itera commercial, or a Chinese Anytone, or a Chinese TYT, or a Chinese Bofang, or a Chinese Wishcom, or
the next you want to share words.
Okay, so that's how you program a channel, folks. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, let's do some question and answers that I've already put in here. And then we'll do regular questions and answers. Can your friend or family member in London, UK, connect to our local talk group, 310844?
Yes,
Yes.
right there on the slide.
You will need that.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah. Let's read it. And if it's line, I'm gonna do this so I don't. Okay. You gotta be on time slot 2 and have 310844 program. And they think that talk group that will be on our local channel. Okay. Let's say you connect to a talk group on time slot 1 and you finish your conversation. Dan said when you're done with your linking to reflectors 2 weeks ago, you should disconnect from the reflector. If you don't, your repeater will do it for you. So, do you have to do it on the alarm? No, you don't have to. Because in 20 minutes, the DMR repeater will disconnect from the talk group that you connected to. However, there is a talk group called 4000. Right, 4000? If you program your radio for time slot 1, talk group 4000, the repeater will disconnect. Okay? So, we don't care where you connect the repeater on time slot 1. You want to listen to the net, you want to listen to KCY, like something that they've done the last couple of weeks. It doesn't matter. Okay? But remember, in 20 minutes, without local RM activity. Okay, so if you want to extend the net, you need to key your line, and then it will reset the timer. All right? But if you've been talking for 15, 18 minutes and you don't disconnect, no biggie. It's going to disconnect for you in a couple minutes. Yes, push direct kind.
Yeah, that statement is true on your repeater. Probably with most of the repeater, but there are 2. One on Able Mountain, one in Woodland, that has no brand likes at a DMR Plus, at a TGIF. And you must disconnect DMR Plus or TGIF. It's required in the repeater or even disconnect.
Well, I was tell you, that is absolutely correct. Scott's shaking over here. He's like, you mean we can set up 3 networks on our repeater? He's shaking.
So big.
And then thank you. That is.
You have that
is a
set
good
up
point.
tomorrow?
And
Tonight.
I usually,
Yeah, it's all big.
when I say the DMR, we're going to connect to one network, it's because that's all we're going to do. Okay, we're not going to do it. But other repeaters do that, and if their rules are that you have to disconnect, there is a really good reason for it. Okay, so I have no issues with that at all.
For hams, we have any repeater and radio.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so talk group 4000 really should just be programmed as a channel on your radio. there are other ways to use talk groups on detail, which we're going to talk about next week. Okay, tonight we programmed the list, but next week we're going and when we program a channel with that talk groups. Next week we're going to show you how to just program one channel and roll in whichever talk groups you want. Okay. Yes, tell me.
If you connect the talk group to time slot 1 and you let it time out, what does it reconnect to?
That
Not
no, yeah, it goes just to null. It's not connected to anything. They're that's how ours is set up right now. Yeah, it doesn't go to anything. Get a sense.
License stop.
No.
Location.
Yep, it's all amateur. Yep.
But it's
And that's a great point, Alan. This is a commercial business system. It was designed that way. It's currently sold by Motorola and Gitwood and Itera, but it is fully 100% legal to use on amateur radio bands. Yes, so that's a great. I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah, unlike D-Star. Well, let's get into that let's get into that in 2 weeks. So there is a database out there with 200,000 users, and on a given number, on a given digital ID number, okay, on that database is associated a call sign. So in some operating modes on the DMR radio, when that person was talking, their call sign comes up, but it is not an FCC allowed ID method. If I understand correctly, on D-Star, it is embedded into the signal. So you do not have to ID every 10 minutes on D-Star. But System Fusion, you have to ID as well. P25, you have to ID. And NXD, and someone told me you did, but you do. No one's on NXD in here, right?
I'm gonna be that.
If Dirk is here, he's on.
Owens swipes repeaters.
There are some repeaters on it, some P45 repeaters and stuff like that. Scott shakes me, can't stop.
And silent.
M17.
Okay. All right, we're going to get to why I said that about Scott in just a second. What is Talk Group 9? It's pretty well misunderstood. And Dan and I had a long conversation about it. If you're on time slot 2 or time slot 1, and you're on Talk Group 9, you're just not connected to the network. Okay? Some organizations have their time slot 2 permanently linked to Talk Group 9, but they don't allow incoming traffic that way. Okay? So my friend Gary can't connect to the local talk group and talk to me if we have our repeater set up on Talk Group 9 on time slot 2. But Bill, DX, and I have talked numerous times on time slot 2 using Talk Group 9. It isolates Talk Group, our time slot 2 from the network. Okay? However, if you have a hotspot, it's completely repurposed. It's repurposed. Time slot, Talk Group 9 on a hotspot is how you access the network. Okay? So it's used for 2 different things. We're not going to get into any of that tonight. But if you log into a repeater and your local talk group is 9, that's just to eliminate network traffic and keep everything local. But then people cannot connect to it. Right? From outside.
You can get to it RF wise.
You can get to RF wise.
But you cannot come into your network.
That is correct. And if other radios are not listed on Group 9, or you have your promiscuous not on, you will not hear it. And that's why Bill hits on Group 9, because they'll like to hear us. But not really. But that's what, that's kind of how that works.
But then I couldn't keep the repeater on that frequency. I'm at Talk One. I'm sure I'm at 2.
More than 2. On 2, or usually Talk Group 9 is usually used on time slot 2.
So could I key up the repeater on slot 2?
Sure, you're on it. Well, not when I'm talking, but as soon as I key, you can key it up, but I couldn't hear a shot. No, you cannot. But the green light will be flashing on your end. And it's kind of like that party line example. So there's no green line in that example, but you could physically see the person on the other side of the street on the telephone. So you know they're on the phone. So when your green light's flashing and you're not hearing anything, you don't have something programmed right on your receive talk group list or your promiscuous phone, or somebody's playing some games. They don't want you to hear them and that kind of thing. By the way, we cannot use encryption on amateur radio frequencies. So even though some of these radios will do it, I think on the amateur bands, please don't use that. It's a big no-no with FCC. And you may not know this, but they can crack all the encryption codes that are on all these radios. So they'll know exactly who's on the air and use the encryption. Okay. This one's for Scott. He told me if I didn't put this in here, okay, I was going to get kicked off for Peter. Okay. I was going to get kicked off the board. What else?
Why lunch
Every day for a month. Okay, so some people talk about transcoding. We talked about how these networks transcoded their background, right? We used to have our D-Star, DMR, and future repeaters all linked together on something called, we call that Omega. We even could bring All-Star in on that. Okay? We do not do that anymore. All the repeaters are standalone. The reason that is because it really takes a village to keep those things running and to manage audio levels. It's almost impossible. Now, some clubs do it better than others. I'm not going to say that we did the best that we could, but the modulation schemes are different between System Fusion, D-Star, and the DMR. Okay, certainly on an All-Star. So we were not able to ever master that using the technology that's available. Some people are doing a better job with it now, but we're not going back. It takes too much too many IT resources and too many people to keep that thing going. And Steinley has 20 people, and we have the best. We got one. But we're not going to put that on ever. So we are not going to do that. So well, if you want to transcode an RF open spot 4 Pro, RF open spot 4 Pro, it's got hardware chips in it. It doesn't do with software, and you can transcode all you want. You can get on D-Star radio, and you can go to D-Star. D-Star radio, you can go to D-Star. D-Star radio, you can go to DMR. Fusion, you can go to D-Star. DMR, you can go to Fusion. You can transcode all you want. And if you want to get really fancy with that box, you can use a really, really cool stuff in your basement. I'm not going to do anything more. Keep the whole night. But just don't transcode any ours. Don't do that. Don't repeat any of ours. Okay, so we're not going to do that in the future. Just because it can be done, but it's very, very complicated and
I have one.
difficult to manage. Okay. And we're going to run some DMR nets. And when we do, where are you going to find the net? Well, we're going to be on the PRA local talk group. That's going to be our hangout. And that's going to be time slot 2, 30844. And there's about 10 of us that hang out there during the day. Okay. So if you want programming radio, and jump on. We hang out all day long there. And if you're into Jeep and geeks, then you need to go to 317 Then. All right. Fine. Now, last slide, we'll take some questions. Living in the DMR world. Okay. Amateur and commercial radios use software programming. An actual file is called code plug. I highly suggest that you at least initially program your radio with software and a code plug. Learn how to build a code plug. Okay? It's more difficult some radios than others. And when people come to me and say, "Oh, this is so hard," I say, "Well, I've only programmed Motorola's, and it's easy." So I probably assumed, well, I said DMR is the easiest of the three, but that's why. Motorola programming software is very easy to use and intuitive, and it doesn't have 200 checkboxes. But all the programming software from all the Chinese radios is free on their website or on the companies you bought the radio from. The programming software is free, and on some Chinese radios you can get a party system. But I think it's only the 87As.
No,
And I 168, I programmed with RT. Yeah.
It's all available now. Okay. If you're used to RT system software, buy it for $25. You'll be glad that you get it. Okay? It's easier to program all these radios with that software. But if you want to do it free, you can program it with software that the manufacturer provides. Right? And some code flows like RT systems allow you to copy and paste. That makes it a lot easier as well. Okay. Yes.
one thing if you're doing some of the Chinese radio, you better off getting American systems cable. Because with standards, both they change it every time when the updates.
That's a great comment. Get the RT systems game.
If you do have some of the
Yep. Yep. The next week we are going to talk about and show you how to do some programming for the top pro panel and like stuff. Good. But I still suggest you get the software, learn how to build the codes. Like you'll learn a lot about DMR radio when you do that. Okay. You need a radio ID. That's the first thing you do. And the night so you know www.radio ID.net. You apply and how long there? You'll get your number. It will stay with you for as long as you need digital. All right. Did I tell the story? So Dan has a number and I have a number. I was that you got. That's the last two are. I put his number in by accident. And every time I key up my digital radio, saying to SRK. And people were calling me, hey Dan, I didn't let have this one. And I had no idea. Finally, I just found that back. Anyway, it's kind of fun. Okay. If you like the Motorola's or Kenwoods, you can get it pretty cheap. They're almost indestructible. They're going to be a little less than some Chinese radios, quite a bit more than others. Okay. But we've all had them or have them. And this one is $250 or less. We can get you the programming software at no cost. But it doesn't have all the features of the Chinese radios. Okay. You just want to look cool. Again, not. And we'll get you Motorola. And we'll help you get it. We'll say anyone get where to get. And Bill's not here tonight, but he's zeroed in and he is a Kenwood, specialist. He would tell you what right here to get laptop. Not all Motorola radios do DMR. It's got to be their Moto Turbo. So a friend of yours has a bunch of old electronic junk in their garage, and they say to you, I got a whole bunch of this old Moto Turbo crap. No. Hey, and it's got to repeat because you peers on that group that will buy you something. We'll buy you some on parts. Okay. Here's a list, a partial list of the DMR radios that are available. The ones that say not reviewed, I don't know anybody that has them. And I'm not able to talk to them, or I have not helped somebody program those radios. But everything else that's on this list has been reviewed, used on our network, and they're all great radios. There are quite a few more that I did not list here. If you are offended because I didn't list your radio, there's nothing I can do about that. But
I don't know about
bring it next week so I can learn something about it. I hear all of this. Yep. I know what you're doing.
Louis.
Try to brand that machine.
Over here.
The one you bought from Paul?
No,
I
I
sold that for a profit.
yeah, you sold it to me. And I told you so.
That's a 6550 you got there.
Yeah, this isn't on the list. This is 6550. It's a fairly old one, but it works for analog and digital. Most all these radios do analog and digital. The Motorola's do not do dual make. They don't make it. So this is a UHF. Oh. Someone asked in the last presentation, we always talk about DMR repeaters and UHF. Are there VHF, DMR repeaters? Yes, there are. Yes, there are. Yes.
Do you guys support the German repeater? Private call? Yeah, text. Yeah.
I think the answer is yes.
I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
I have no idea.
I know a lot of that's in territorial area. Always one.
Good.
Let us think about that.
Okay.
Well, that's it. So it's going to try it.
We could screw around and try it, but I think there's probably a reason no one allows it.
Well, because they don't want one person fighting from your repeater or out or so.
So,
Right. So it's totally gotta have bigger answer group. You can figure this. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just you and I talk, you know, look at your
And you think on a private call, does a promiscuous phone pick up that talk group?
yeah.
It does. Okay.
It gets hot.
Okay.
It's not a left individual. Yeah, all right.
So I'm just going to say that private calls are repeater or banned.
Okay.
You just made that up, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Scott to say it. He didn't say anything, so I'm going to say it. Why do you think I'm the VP? I can say whatever I want. And most of them doesn't have to be true.
Somebody's money. Like,
Okay, so any of these radios are great radios. You do want to, let me just take a quick time on mobile radios. The Chinese have done a fantastic job with handheld radios. Absolutely fantastic. I have never been really excited about some of the mobile radios that have come out. China, okay? If you are hell-bent on putting a mobile DMR radio in your vehicle, I would strongly suggest you talk to Dan or I, and we'll figure out a way to get you a Motorola. Because only because it's just a much better fit for a mobile application. Because a lot of times when you're mobile, you don't have time to look at all the stuff on issues. It's like you're just trying to talk, right? And so I just think for the money and for this and that, and some of the feature sets that don't work real well on Chinese mobile radios, if you're going to do a mobile DMR radio, just at least let us show you a couple of options that are available for you. Probably for under $200.
Absolutely.
But they're not dual band. That's right. And another question I'll ask, and I'm not going to answer because I don't want to answer, are there any VHF DMR meters in the Denver area?
Yes.
There are.
Yeah, there's 3 that I know of in the Denver area. You're watching Colorado Springs.
Neither one in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, it depends on what your operating style is. And, I very rarely on any of my radios ever get off with PRA repeaters. So for me, that would not be much. But just so you know, some of the Motorola mobile radios are very, very good and probably better than some Chinese.
But yeah, they are excellent, but you can't bust the PRA if you do a so Motorola in your radio, UHF only.
Right.
PRA is VHF.
Right. And if you're just going to do a DMR or you're at Elizabeth, that you're going to use an analog repeater out there, that would be fine. Yeah, that's correct. But yeah,
But it won't not alien the beast.
it will not be. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And maybe if I can learn more about the Chinese mobile radios experience I have, it's not been very good. That doesn't mean everybody is that same issue. Okay, so not just for me, we have some other people that are pretty knowledgeable about this, and so what questions do you have?
So if I wanted to connect to the,
Okay, thank you very much.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone that thinks that longer like question, I know I'm not gonna be able to answer.
No, you'll be able to answer it.
I'm just kidding.
I'm pretty sure you've answered it before.
Right, right.
If you want to connect to the PRA DMR repeater, time slot 1, you've got to have a talk group of something in there.
Yes,
Should the default be 310844, essentially?
no,
Okay.
yep, I mean, if you connect to 310-844 on time slot 1, you can do.
You're accomplishing nothing. Just do time slot 2. Okay.
No.
The follow-on question then is, you kind of have to, what's the protocol on kerchunk it and then immediately ID? What do you do there?
The ID part is a little bit difficult and confusing to explain, but let's just see what we can do. I don't know what's in here.
Short answer is, so if you're going to be using time slot 1 to connect to another talk group, in order for the repeater to understand where you want to connect, you got to perch on.
Yeah, right.
So this is how you do it. I'm gonna try to connect to the local talk group. Be smart. I don't know. Okay, so this may not work. We may get a talk that says I'm not getting the repeater, which we did. That's all I would have to do for that. I go to the list over here. I'm gonna PRA local time slot 2 00844.
Okay. Now that's an interesting. So when you hear that tone,
2 things. Yeah.
go ahead.
But
If you hear that tone come across, 2 things are happening. One, you're not getting into the repeater. It's number 1. And Paul, the second,
be somebody on there. Likes to living. And talk. Now, there's not, because that's our local. That could let us go. Gotta hold your head down. Okay. If it connects, it beeps with a different problem. Right then on with all eyes. You testing a little? Like the launch shouldn't do it. Hey, I need to go on the side. I do it. Thanks a lot. Can you check? Get a little that. On when I always like that part. No. Okay, I am basic. Okay. No, I think it went outside. Yeah, find out that was okay. That's all it takes, Jack. It's just
Okay. And I think I just got in.
Thank you.
So here.
I got a long roll.
So you're gonna
Getting to 168.
so you chunk it to connect, and then you should immediately.
forget. So talk to Quebec, but remember, that's not your practice is to do what?
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, is there not a QSO going on?
No, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I
Okay. It just feels weird to us.
Good job. Not,
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
so and there is most radios there's a connect tone.
Yeah.
And there's a busy or I'm not connecting, so that's what you're over there. If it connected to be short of the frequency, you would know you're connected. And if you're on the blood randomizer dashboard, you can see that you're connected.
Gotcha. So you're not push to talking every time you want to talk. It's like a radio transfer. So once you per jump, you hear the talk. Right? Are you just talking?
Yeah,
Or you have to push to talk each time?
push the talk each
To still, it's not do that. But then afterwards, if you're going to do talk 4,000 to this house, say that's channel 2, you're the where you got a channel 2 where you got TG 4,000.
right.
It's a lot. If it is out this.
Correct. On any tone, you can just go to a menu option this way. Sometimes on and you just turn in any contact you want. You see it be live. That'd be 4,000. It just the contact list right on the tree, and then we'll go next.
So if Paul was able to hit the repeater, this is the shouting repeater. That would be it. Yeah. No. Sure.
I think each radio frequency and is a little bit. I know I have the feelings. But you don't really operate the radio digitally, except for that initial key up, and then this guy, if you choose to use that. I mean, best practice is this guy. You know, we have very little use on our DMR people. Very little use.
2 hours ago, you started this briefing with this is easy.
Yeah, it is. I didn't watch it. I didn't about this. Yeah, because Bill and them and Tom over here, Randy, people like, you don't need 2 nights for that. Yes, I do. No, you don't. Yes, I do. So we had to fight a little bit. I mean, we got 2 nights. But yeah, but whatever, the DMR repeater is not linked very much. And it's not used very much. It's open season. Get out there and link it. Link it to whatever you want. Listen to guys, do whatever. Just remember, there's no local RF. It is going to reset after. And I look at the timing on where you set up. I believe it's 20 minutes. I believe it's 20 minutes. Yeah. You know, it's the last local RF. Correct. Right.
You talk for 15 minutes. It's not 5 minutes.
Nothing.
20 minutes.
Yeah. And there's a net that's really interesting. That's perfectly fine. But if you could store it and do it, if you're in a listen only room, that's all you want to shoot. The that's fine. Even if you want to check in, that's fine too. But it's not even as well as the net. That's not everybody's going to hear that. But I mean, we could go easily 10 days and have 2 or 3 people access the system. So it really is not used very much. That is one of the reasons we're doing all of these presentations, is we want you guys and gals to pick a digital system you like, there. Now we are going to roll out some nets, individual nets on these different modes. So, and I'm going to do that. That's this way you get your radio program at a time. You can get ready, and then post your ad. You have controllers, and then where's that? So, what else you got?
So PRA used to have a digital net. Will that ever come back?
Yeah, that was when we were transcoding and we were linking all, but we're not doing that anymore. We'll do individual digital nets. So it's on one system. So we'll do a D-Star net, we'll do a System Fusion net, and we'll do a we'll see. I do a DMR. It's been a long week.
It's not that.
But that's how we're going to do it. Here's why that's good. Here's why that's good. We didn't have a smaller group on each data, and that's okay. We're going to make it more about the mode. We're going to make it more about these stuff. We want people to get on there and say, hey, Dan, you link your repeater during the day to REF 030 Charlie. Oh, what is the thinking behind this? And then, or someone say, hey, Dan, I know this great reflector. It's not busy all day, but all they do is talk digital. Would you be willing to link your repeater to that? Or we could talk about, I can't get mine until 186 to work like I do my H7A. Does anybody have one? So it's going to be more. I don't want to use the term technical net. That's really not what we can exchange other information as well, but it's not going to be a net on the topic necessarily. You guys and gals can find your own topic. Get on here, talk about what you want to talk about the DMR repeaters and and differ. Talk about the D-Star repeater in Colorado Springs, whatever. But that's how the net is. That's 80,000 foot view on how we've envisioned it's going to be. But you know, we're not looking for numbers. When we had the mega repeater and the combined digital net, we were getting at some point 20 people on there, and then it went down to 15, and then 10, and then we were lucky to get 6 or 8 on there, and it's just way too much work, way too much trouble to keep that whole system working for a net with 6 people on. But we don't care on these individual nets. Is that I explained that okay, Scott? Okay. That's all. Any more questions on the DMR?
For next week, not next week, next year.
2 weeks.
Will there be internet available so we can use prior hotspots? And then here?
A network? Yes, there's a network here. Yes. What access? Yeah, next step. So the multi-band. To do all that.
Yeah.
So somebody wants to bring a Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever, box in here, a couple of them, you're welcome to do that. It's actually us. However you want to do it. Now, next week's going to be on 2 weeks from now, it's going to be on programming primarily. I do need a little help. Okay. So if you're willing to spend a couple minutes with me just a minute. Yes. You want to play that. So if you just come up here afterwards, I just need a little help with this together. I'll do most of it, but I want to make sure we cover the right stuff. And I don't have any tone. I don't have a leash on. I don't have a TYT, so we'll do the best we can. That's why I want you to bring your programming software on your computer. I want you to be familiar with it so we can sit down and help you, guide you a little bit on the software, knowing that we're not experts on any of it. Okay? That's kind of what we're going to do. We will have about 5 to 10 slides for a presentation to start the meeting out. And we will have several slides in 2 weeks. I think that's the 16th on hotspots. We'll dig into that a little deeper. Fantastic technology. Yes.
So each individual person gets their own IP.
Yes.
The software is just on ID.
Correct.
You have to link the ID number for, say, I wanted to speak to you on whatever that. I have to add your number to that number.
No, we're going to just both connect. You're going to connect to a talk group. I'm going to connect to that same talk group, and we're going to talk to each other. Now, how we do that could be through a hotspot, or it could be through a repeater. Right? But however we do that, you may be in Alabama, and you have a local repeater down there, and it has a talk group assigned. We're local. I'm just going to connect our repeater here to that talk group. But our IDs are inherent. They're inherent to each individual user, and it's a one and done. You program it one time like the radio. Now you are transmitting that ID across the network. And so next week we're going to talk about how you can assign a name to that number. Okay, and it's basically grabbing a bunch of IDs on a big database and loading that into your radio. Okay? And if everybody did that, every time somebody transmitted on DMR, your pulse would come up. Okay? But we didn't go through any of that side. But we're going to meet on a talk group, and that's how we're going to talk.
So is it possible to contact somebody to their ID?
It is correct.
That's when I was asking about
Private calls.
my ID, his ID, right? And no, I asked him on it was okay. You are. I don't. What you can is a scenario is DMR ID. the top group in the group.
Yeah.
The private. And now he's a top group. I can call in my ID and everybody else can call you. So if you want to set up your own little private PRA, then you decide.
Or if we want to compare somebody.
Yeah.
So I would say 98% of all DMR traffic follows a fairly basic and simple path configuration, however you want to call it, like we described tonight. But you can pass data on DMR. You can do private calls and everything that was just described. But I would say it's not common to order people doing it. Absolutely.
The other thing in DMR that's giving is input. Well, things like if offering 99 and stuff, DMR margin and like this work better going. But you could set up as a like yeah. Using 310844 and slot code on Facebook. The ERJ was doing some days and they just wanted to talk saber.
Yeah, so we effectively was going to date intervention. We wanted to just all in the gutter. We don't all the insurance. We don't all. That's exactly what we do. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up here. We're way over. We still got stuff for this meeting. So, my apologies, Andrew. You need to get to that live. Thank you for your patience on that. Great questions, Andrew. Great questions, Alan. Great question. That was one of the best questions even I. And we'll see everybody on the 16th parts.
Thanks, Paul.